Hello, good morning, good afternoon to everybody on the call here. Thank you for attending our webinar today on leadership in turbulent times. The top 10 things that leadership can do in turbulent times. My name is Corey Brooks. I'm a Director of Client Solutions here at MindField Group. I'm with Suzanne Dobler, who's our Marketing Manager, and we also have our special guest today, Mike Desjardins from VirtUS. I'm just going to do a bit of an introduction about VirtUS before we get started. The name is interesting. I picked this up today. I didn't know this, but VirtUS is named from a Latin word meaning personal worth, character, courage, and excellence. VirtUS was started in January '99. They're 10 years in. And one of the goals for the organization, which I found very interesting, was that VirtUS would like to be the Apple of the consulting world. So to talk a little bit about Mike, a very established individual here locally, runs a business across North America. Over the past 10 years, Mike and his team have grown VirtUS into one of the top boutique organizational development consulting firms in Western Canada. They support medium and large organizations in the areas of strategic planning, leadership development, CEO and executive peer groups, change management, and succession planning. They've got clients all across Canada and the U.S., and they focus on acceptance and buy-in, self-responsibility among team members, and strategies that actually cascade into accountabilities and actual long-term changes in behavior. So Mike's here with us today to talk about the top 10 leadership behaviors during turbulent times. And this is whether from an internal industry or economic turbulence perspective, the strategies and approaches that are required by leaders are similar, and they need to be deliberate. So Mike's going to spend the next 30-40 minutes or so discussing the various strategies, and at the end of that time, he'll be able to answer your questions. And please type them into the chat area. That's where we're going to pick them up from, and we'll be able to get to them at the end of his presentation. Just before we get started, of course, wanted to introduce a little bit about MindField Group. We're an RPO organization downtown Vancouver here in Gastown. We were started in 2005, and we got our legs by developing expertise in social media and how that applies to recruitment. We are experts in delivering high-volume recruitment solutions for the retail industry. Essentially, we're making a hire every 9 minutes. So if you're a retailer or in need of high-volume hourly paid employees, give us a call. Just to talk a bit about the RPO solution. RPO, the acronym for Recruitment Process Outsourcing, as distinct from contingency search firms or staffing firms. Our solution basically takes all of the recruitment options that are available in the marketplace and puts them into one package. Management reporting, the applicant tracking system, management of data. We have a great team of people here in our candidate care call center. We handle all of your recruitment advertising management, career site management, working with candidates all the way through the process. We pre-screen, phone screen, and get shortlists to hiring managers. Our value proposition is we send 2 candidates for every job vacancy in 72 hours, and we're typically cutting our clients' cost of hire by about 50%. You can find us on Twitter. Our blog is also available. We've also got a website, rethinkrecruiting.com or mindfieldgroup.com, and we're also on Facebook. Now, Cam extends his apologies. Something had came up he had to attend to, so I'm kind of covering just the intro piece here. Cameron Laker is our CEO and founder of MindField Group. He's built a lot of expertise in leveraging social media for recruitment, and again, that's where we got our legs. And he's not here, so the humor might be lost, but he wanted to make sure that we denoted his professional headshot in the interest of vanity. You can give an email to Cam if you want to get in touch with him. If you have any questions about MindField Group or what we do, camera@mindfieldgroup.com. And I think right now I'm going to pass it over to Mike Desjardins of VirtUS.
That's great. Thanks very much, Corey. Sue. Good morning, Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton, and I guess good afternoon, Winnipeg, Toronto, and Montreal. We've got leaders and people who coach leaders both internally and externally joining us today from across Canada. So I'm going to speak from a number of different perspectives, but I think you'll see that the tips, the tools, the techniques for practical application will be relevant to most of you. And that's what we're going to focus on today is on application and ease of use. I'm going to make reference to a few books along the way. Don't worry about trying to write the names down. What we're going to do is actually, in the follow-up email, we'll actually send out the names of the books and the authors, so you'll be able to pick those up if you've got some interest in the topic area. So my goal for you today is that you pick up a couple of new approaches and behaviors. Some of the things I'm going to talk about are, you might find that they're common sense, but I don't know, in the experience that I've had over the last 10 years, I wish it was common sense. It doesn't seem to be that way most of the time, so it seems to be less common than we might think. So let's talk about the top 10 things that leaders need to do during turbulent times. So the first one is simplify the message. And the strategic message of the organization, keeping everyone on the same page, is critical during turbulent times. And complicated strategies that run 20+ pages, that's not the kind of information that people can relate to. It's not the type of thing they're going to be able to pass along. The easier the strategy is to understand and communicate, the more likely it is to be understood and passed through the entire organization. Now, whether that's your 1-year goals, your top 3 to 5 1-year goals, or it's your quarterly goals, that's about what people have the bandwidth to be able to remember and to spread to other people that either report to them or that are their peers in the organization. The author Stephen Covey actually took it one step further, and he said, you know what, I'm not even sure that people are going to remember top 3 to 5 goals. I think they need a WIG. And a WIG is what he calls a wildly important goal. So it's that one thing that everybody in the company needs to know about. I mean, you can think about it a little bit like a slogan for the company for the year, but more accurately, it's the single overarching objective that everybody must understand, feel compelled by, and be able to repeat and pass on. I mean, a simple catchphrase like this, politicians have been using this to their advantage for years. And most recently, I guess it was about 6 weeks ago now, was at a BC leadership lunch that our premier, Gordon Campbell, was the guest of honor. And it was at the new convention center that we had built here in Vancouver, and it's the gorgeous, gorgeous building that overlooks the mountains, and but there's a lot of wood on the inside of the building, and the premier was speaking about how important wood is to the economy in British Columbia. But his actual quote is, "Wood is good." So yeah, I know the double entendre was absolutely intentional. And I can guarantee you that this message was passed on, because sitting at my table there were 10 people, and we've been having a discussion about Twitter, and I think about 5 of them pulled out their iPhones and Blackberries and started tweeting about his comment while we were still sitting at lunch. So the goal is simplify the strategic message and make it easy to spread. I talked a little bit about the 1-year perspective, but I want to talk now about looking back from the future. And short-term thinking, and when I say short-term thinking, I mean sort of, the next month or the next quarter, can drive organizations to make decisions that are in the long term not in the best interest of stakeholders. And anybody who's spent any time learning about the stock market, or if you're in a publicly traded company, which I know from the attendees list, there's quite a few of you that are you know what I'm talking about. The situation can get exasperated in times of turbulence. And it doesn't even matter. When we talk about times of turbulence, it can be internal turbulence, it can be external market forces, things are happening in the industry, or as is the talk of the day right now, the economy and the turbulence that's creating for a lot of organizations, most of them. So the key is to look at the decisions that we're making in our organization right now and think about them from a 1-year perspective, a 3-year perspective, and a 5-year perspective. But not looking forward, I mean looking backwards. So actually put myself in a position a year from now and look back at the decision that I have to make today and say, am I comfortable making this decision? Or a year from now, am I going to look back and say, I wish I would have done something else? By doing that at the 1-year mark, the 3-year mark, and the 5-year mark, what you're going to find is you get a bit of a reality check about what decision that you were going to make that may have been a reactive decision that isn't really going to serve you. And getting advice from the future prevents that situation that we get into where we regret something. I mean, really, what is regret? Regret is I looked back at a decision that I made, and I wish I would have made a different decision. So what if we did that now and took the power of being able to sit back and think about a decision from the future and look back on today? So that's using a future-focused, looking-back perspective. The third thing I want to talk about is revenue, cost, and cash flow. These three are absolutely critical. I mean, you could say revenue is vanity at the end of the day, but without revenue, we might as well all go home, because that's really what helps drive the ship. And when our competitors are looking inwardly focused right now, it's the best time to be in front of the market. What that means is that everyone in the business needs to be involved in sales in some way. I don't know about you, but a lot of the things that I've bought, they come from recommendations from friends. People that have tried a product or a service and had a great experience and told me about it, and then I've gone and checked it out. Well, I've actually had that happen where it's people from a company who are raving about their company and saying how great it is, and I ask them what they do, and they say, I'm in HR, or I'm in purchasing. I'm like, really? And you're that big of a fan of your product? And like, yeah, no, we do a really good job. I feel compelled to go look at a company whose employees are that excited about what they do and what the company does. So really, the simplest way you can do this is actually getting your frontline people to ask happy customers for referrals. In my experience, referrals come into a business when you do a good job, but if you want a lot of referrals that will actually help drive growth, that requires asking people. Let's face it, every day we're sitting there in our offices doing our job. We're not thinking about our suppliers thinking, oh, I wonder who I could refer them to. We're thinking about, oh, God, I've got a lot of email to get through, and it's 4:30. So if I get somebody asking me, do you know somebody that you think would enjoy our product, the chances are yes. I mean, I do, because I like doing business with you, but you got to ask me to remind me that to give you the referral that I've been thinking about. Second thing I want to talk about is cutting costs. Now, if revenue is vanity, then profit is sanity. I mean, look at each major expenditure in its own light, not based on a sweeping percentage. A lot of companies say, we're doing a across-the-board 25% cut. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, who runs their business by saying I'm going to do a 25%